Well, good day again, viewers, boys and girls. Welcome to Noel's Garden Tractors and Firewood. And today, I'm gonna do some videoing on this engine. Now, I had 15 minutes of video done on this engine. Things I talked about and didn't I hit the wrong button today and deleted it. Oh dear. Anyway, so I'll kind of go over here a little bit. I can't remember what I did before or how much I talked about, but anyway. One thing is, I guess, it's the dipstick. The dipstick right there. I'll turn it around a bit for you. Just looks like a plug, but it has a dipstick on the end of it. Get it into the camera somehow. Keep the light out of it. Anyway, oil is nice and clean, and it's full right to the top. So I would say the thing was running at some point. And there are other reasons why it stopped running or they stopped using it. So anyway, I think that was one of the first things I looked for. And this is a centrifugal clutch. So when it's on idle, it would just spin without spinning this part and the pulleys. And when you pulled it to full throttle, it would engage this and run the belts to whatever it was hooked to. So I'm kind of thinking, by the look of these things coming out the sides here, that the clutch went haywire, and it's jammed up now, of course. So it's when the engine is running, this is running, the pulleys are running. So I'd say that could be the reason why they stopped using it. But that's just a guess. So I did hook up power to it, and it does turn over. You get to the any of you remember the dimmer switches on the floors of cars for your high-low beam? This is what's on it, for a button like that for starting. But it doesn't go click. It's just an on and off button, but it looks the same as those old dimmer switches. So we'll give her a little whirl here. So she turns over pretty good. Now the clunking, I don't know if you can hear that or not. Some places it doesn't do it. Some places it does. So that's hard to know what that is, but of course my first guess would be a bad or too much clearance on the rod and the crank. Anyway, we'll move along here with it. So the other day I also did a compression test. I had the plug out, and this engine does have, plug looks pretty good actually. This engine does have the automatic compression release in it. So if you wanted to do a true compression test, I think what you have to do is do what they call, I think, a leak down test. Now, I've never done one of those, but I'm guessing that you must have something to put in the plug hole here with a gauge and an air valve so you can put air into it. Have the cylinder at the bottom of the stroke. Fill it with air, whatever amount, I guess, say 120 pounds. That would be a normal compression. And then I guess see how long it holds it, I guess. I don't know how long you would do that either. But one thing it would tell you too is, apparently, is if it's leaking out the exhaust valve, you'll hear the hiss out the exhaust pipe. If it's leaking out the intake, you'll hear it out the carburetor. If you don't hear any of those two, then that's good. The valves are good, I guess. And if it's leaking into the base, then you'll hear it going into the base and maybe out through the breather. Again, I don't know much about that kind of a test, so I've never done it, but that's just how I'm guessing it works. So then if these valves are good and the compression is going down quick, or the pressure, then you would put oil in the cylinder and rotate it a bit and get oil all over everything on the rings and stuff. Do the same test again, and if the test is a lot better, well, then it indicates that your rings are bad. Another way you can do that test for a compression test, if you were using a compression tester, is to run the engine backwards. So, and in some cases, I guess, I don't know how you would do that either. I know on the John Deere, the 140 John Deere over there, it's a 1970 tractor. It has on the flywheel end a spot where you can put a rope on it to pull start it, in other words. Well, in the manual, it tells you that that's what you use to turn the engine backwards to check for compression. Anyway, I got 85 pounds out of this the other day for compression, so that at least tells me that it'll start. So I got to get the wiring done for the coil and that stuff yet, but I think the next move is to get in to have a look at the points. And if we can, we may see if we can get in through this hole here and see if we can find the timing marks on the flywheel. And that's the best way to time them, if you can find those marks. And I'd have to re-look and do some searching again. I did do it before on an engine, but to use a test light or a continuity meter, and you set the points wherever that line comes for the timing to be set at. The points either, I just forget now how it works, but these are open or close or something. Let's say have continuity or you don't have continuity, and then you can adjust the points to where you want the timing set at. So a usual setting on these is 20 thousandths, and they can go anywhere from 18 to 22, I believe these. And that's the other thing I can't remember. I knew all this last year when I did the engine over for the kablooey that I blew up. I had all this all down pat. I had that engine just timed exactly where I wanted it. And of course now I can't remember. I'll have to do all that figuring again. Anyway, we got all this stuff off of here. Get the dirt out of there, and I'll get back to you in a few minutes maybe, or maybe a couple of days. All right, a few minutes later, instead of a few days, I guess. I have it set so that I'm going to check the gap there. And the other thing I wanted to check was this pin. That pin runs in and operates off of the cam. So as it needs to open and close the points, there's a lobe on the cam that does that. So I've moved the points there. Yeah, you can see it there maybe. Get in here. Yeah. So I'll move the points. You can see the rod moving. So that's good. Sometimes them rods will stick, and then your points don't move, and then you get no run. So anyway, I'll set you back up here again if I can. So we'll check that and see what it's set at. So I'm going to take out a 20 thousandths. There we go. There is a 20 thousandths. If you can see that or not. We'll just give that a check. Okay, we'll try 19. I would say they're set at 19. So that's pretty good for running. Like I say, if we could find the mark on the flywheel, we could get it a lot more exact, but at that setting, the engine would run fine. So now, I'll show you another little bit here. If you had a timing light, and you could get in through this hole here, that's where you would see the marks on the flywheel. So if you had a timing light, you could actually run the engine. You can see here, I'm trying to get the light in and trying to keep my glasses so I can see. Yeah, so what you can do is, with the engine running, you can loosen the screw here that holds the setting, and just loosen it a bit so that you can move the points. So then you would put a screwdriver, a flat screwdriver right in there, and with the engine running at over 1200 to 1800 RPM, you could move the points setting back and forth, and that would move the line on the flywheel to the mark that it's supposed to be set up against, kind of like the old engines on the damper on the front of the engine. So you can set them with the engine running if you had a timing limit. And those are hard to come by nowadays. Anyway, there's a little bit again for you. Now you have to remember I'm not an experienced, trained person in all this, so I'm just giving you what I think. I could be wrong. But anyway, that's the way it is. It's not a educational video, it's just something that I do video. Anyway, we'll shut you off at that point and we'll move on to something else here. So I had a thought here while I was, instead of me trying to find that mark on that other engine, which I will do at some point, but I have the flywheel here off of the engine that blew up. Anyway, now we can see the marks here. Where are we here? Alright, you can see a T there. The T is, and there's a line in the white part of the paint there. There's a line. So the T is for top dead center. And there's a line there in the white. In the way here, what am I doing wrong? Oh, trying to get the camera in there and I'm blocking off the light. Alright, there's a line in that white spot there, and then you can see the S. And the S stands for spark. So, if I'm right in my saying, this flywheel would rotate in that direction. So in that hole in the block, you would see this first, and then you would see this. And I could be wrong in my thinking, but I think that's how it goes. So spark happens 20 degrees before top dead center. So that's the distance between top dead center and spark. So it sparks, and then she starts going back down on her power cycle. So you can see there that the way that looks with the ring gear and the flywheel and the markings where they're at. That's what you got to find in that hole. You can see the teeth of the flywheel, and you can see that flat part to the left of the teeth in through that hole. Now, on that flywheel, there should be the same marks as what I showed you on the other one. Finding them can be quite a chore. It probably is just as easy, if you really wanted to get into doing that, is to take the flywheel cover off and find them that way. It'll be a lot easier to find. Because over time, rust and whatever gets on the flywheel and kind of covers over that stuff, and they're real hard to find. Anyway, there's another little bit. So we got her kind of wired up here, and the coil on here didn't have any nuts on it. So how often does this happen? I've got drawers and drawers of stuff, nuts and bolts and little tiny stuff in million pieces. And this is the drawer that's out of that spot. So I took this out, looking for nuts for up there. And sure enough, I looked in, the first thing I seen was this one. Or I think this one. Anyway, I took that out, tried it, and sure enough, it fit. And I thought, holy cats, it never ever happens that you'd ever find another one the same in the same bin. Well, within about 30 seconds, I found the second one. How often does that ever happen? Anyhow, we got her hooked up here, and I tested the switch, and I got power to here. I know what that switch does there in the back now, and so I gave it a whirl over. No spark. And I said, okay. So I got looking and thought, well, something I was gonna do. Well, I had the cover off, but I didn't. Was take a points file and give the points a file and then a rub on. So now, if I can get it on camera here. Now, the reason why I think it's kind of off and on is there's no way to hold that there. It doesn't have a good ground. Try it there, maybe. There. Spark. On to the next thing, I guess. And what would that be? Fuel. Well, I guess we're gonna see here, boys and girls, if I guess that thing is recording. We're gonna give this a little go here, see if it'll make a blast. So she's set on idle because this one has no throttle. It's either wide open or on idle because of the governor system here. It's either an idle or wide open. You see the lever, the choke mover, the carburetor shaft moving back and forth there. Idle, wide open. Then the governor adjusts the load as it needs to. So there, now I'm just going to spray a little bit of brake clean in here. Turn the switch on, and she's going to be noisy. She's got a race muffler on her. No. Helps to put the battery cable on. See that? All excited. Haven't got a clue what I'm doing. All right. and try her again. Well, isn't that amazing? I guess the next step will be to get fuel into it. Sounds kind of neat. Alright, so I put some fuel in it, in the gas tank, and I've got fuel here now, and I can see it kind of going back and forth. Pump must be working. Pump is leaking, but that's normal. So I put a bit of chainsaw gas mix in it to kind of give it a bit of a lube on the first start, kind of a thing, I guess. But so we'll see what happens here. Run of the fuel. She needs a little adjustment on the idle circuit. Not the idle circuit, the idle speed, I suppose I should say. Okay, let's see what happens. Well, here we are running. I say the clothes is sticking or something, so. Motor sounds good. Can't tell if there's a bad knock there or not. Doesn't sound like it, so. Now, I should have had it bolted down a little better, shouldn't I? As you can see, everything was going. So, that's a good thing right there. That's a good thing. Now I got to do a little work in the carburetor, and that'll be that. There now. Little leak coming out of there. That's expected. God knows how long since it's been running. Anyway, there we go. A running engine. And I don't think, from what I can hear, I don't hear a bad engine noise in it, so that's a good thing. So thanks for following along on this here. It's been kind of fun to do. I didn't expect it to run when I picked it up, but anyway, there she is. So have a great day wherever you're at. I'm having a good one, that's for sure. Good morning, viewers. Just want to do a little update on that video there, the motor. I kind of forgot to mention something there. So when I was showing you the marks on the flywheel where I had the green and red paint there, where the T and the S were and the little lines, those lines line up with another line that is on the block of the engine. And I don't know if you've noticed it or not, but on the left part of this the video there, you might have seen some white on the flywheel backing plate, and that's where the line is. So that's what you line up the lines on the flywheel too. So if you were doing it with a timing light, you would put the timing light in through that hole and have those lines on the flywheel and on the block with white paint or white chalk or something so it shows up, and then you can set your timing. Now the other thing I forget is I can't remember right offhand. If you're at 20, that's about the normal setting, at 20 degrees before top dead center. So if you wanted to advance or retard the timing, you would either go 21 or 22 thousandths on the points, or 18 or 19, but I can't remember now which way is which. So in other words, I guess let's just say for fun's sake, I guess, if you wanted to advance the timing, you would go to either 21 or 22 thousandths. I think that's how it goes. I'm not sure. I can't remember now. I'd have to go through all that again. But anyway, that's the way you set her up. Now, I always kind of like to have them a little bit advanced. Yeah, you get the maximum power that you can out of them, and that's the way I like to do it. But if you're running late in timing, that can rob power from you and overheat the engine. You don't want that. So anyway, I may do a part 2 in this video, or this whatever you call it. I have the carburetor apart, and I have the needle and seat out of it, and I'm just going to clean that up, and I'll clean the carburetor a little bit with some brake clean and some air, and put it all back together, and it probably won't run as good. It's just normal with me. As soon as I try and fix something, it don't work right anymore. So, but anyway, we'll see what happens, and I kind of want to see I want to see if it's charging too. There's wiring there for charging, so I'd like to see if that is working. So I may do a part 2 on that, and we'll just see how that goes. Anyway, have a great day, and we'll chat with you later.